Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Martin, and tonight we are talking about a very supernatural Christmas and last holiday, and maybe some other stuff too. But before we delve into the Winchester holiday season, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Carole.
Hi, I'm Carole Stokes. I'm here on Facebook. I'm a fanfic writer. All my fic is on AO3 under Fire Sign 10, and I've been a Supernatural fan since season 3.
Great. Janet?
I'm Janet Walden-West, and I write urban fantasy and paranormal romance that owes a lot to Supernatural, of course, and fanfic writers. And I have been a fan since the very first season.
Very good. Melissa?
I'm Melissa. I am a fanfic stalker. And I can often be found in the Supernatural TFWNC Facebook group that you moderate, or here on Continual Talking Supernatural. And I have been a fan since the pilot, when it originally aired.
Very good. Lola?
My name is Lola Larsey. I'm a deadbeat writer. I'm supposed to be working on my second book, but I keep doing other things like watching Supernatural and working. So one day I'll get back to it. But in the meantime, I love doing these Supernatural panels.
And I'm Gail Z. Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. And I do run the Supernatural TFWNC group here on Facebook when I'm not on Continual. So we get two very different views of Christmas and a number of other holidays with a very supernatural Christmas when Dean's counting down to his deal. And then at the end, the last holiday. Thoughts about, let's start with a very supernatural Christmas. That's just one of those warm, gooey, sweet, heartbreaking episodes as the boys are looking down the barrel at hell. So what do you think, Carole? What are your thoughts on a very supernatural Christmas?
Well, I love it. I love it. I saved it for later today just to watch it when I could really enjoy it because it's such a delightful episode. I love the whole presentation of it as like this, actual special on TV with the special title card and everything. I love all the wholesomeness of like the houses, they're decorated to the nth degree and little cherubic children. Then you get into of course there's a monster, so that gets quite dark. But the monsters are the most perfectly Americana suburban elderly couple you could wish for. And both of them, especially Edward, the husband, are terrific character actors. He's in everything. He is Spencer Garrett, and he's in everything. And we've all seen him in a million different things, but this performance of his is like a little jewel. He is just, Papa Nelson with the pipe, and yet here he is crushing the fruitcake under his heel and butchering people, and with a smile on his face. And his wife's like, no, so you have to say fudge. You can't swear. And it's just delightful, this juxtaposition of the wholesomeness that anybody could wish for, underlaid with this really dark, bloody, thing going on with the pagan gods and the sacrifices, and I need a tooth. How did I forget the tooth? So, and then the final piece for me is, of course, the flashbacks, where we have the flashback of Sam and Dean. Of course, John and his A+ parenting are off somewhere hunting. Sam doesn't know yet. This is the last vestige of Sam's innocence. He doesn't know what's really happening. He just knows they move a lot and they throw salt around. This is where he finds out, and it's heartbreaking. It's really, you already feel for them so much because here they are, it's Christmas, they're alone, having Funyuns for dinner, and then he finds out, and Dean, in quintessential Dean fashion, does his utmost to try and cushion it for him and reassure him. And Sam's like, well, if it got mom, it could get us, it could get dad. And Dean's like, I will never let anything happen to you. So even at this tender age, Dean is, no one's touching my Sammy. So it's really beautifully crafted. The stories mesh seamlessly. Everything is, the amusing stuff is great, and it's terribly amusing. But then you have all of this kind of darkness and then this poignancy, and it is just, wow.
Janet, how about you? What stuck out for you on A Very Supernatural Christmas?
I agree. This is like peak Sam and Dean, especially with the flashbacks of baby Sammy. And yes, you go from that, and here's Dean tied to a chair, still like yelling at them because they're hurting his little brother Sammy, pulling his nails out. So I loved this episode. We are so twisted for loving things like this, but I did. And it's just especially heartbreaking because here you have the flashbacks. Sam is learning about this world, and Dean is telling him, no, it's going to be all right. I will not let anything happen to you. That's going to happen to dad. It'll be fine. And then you have, your final scene where they're sitting around with skin mags and, a tree in a bucket, and Sammy is just sitting there, and you see it, they got Dean. This is their last holiday together. They got Dean. It did happen. So just my heart.
Okay, Melissa?
5 words: John Winchester A+ parenting, because this is the quintessential example of John's parenting skills, and we all know how I feel about that, so I'm not going to go down that path. And then think about everything that Carole just said, and here we go. First ditto of the night.
Okay, Lola?
Everyone said it perfectly. You have the comparison between the shiny, happy, suburban, perfection, and then the dark belly that's really underneath, what Supernatural loves to do. That's like where they shine. And we may talk about this later, but I watched the 2 episodes back to back, and I realized how much they have in common. So that may be something we talk about. There are a lot of matches between the 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
I think for me, and you guys hit a lot of the high points, but there was just so much humor in A Very Supernatural Christmas before it ripped our hearts out. So Dean doing his best by Sammy by stealing presents from someone else's house and stealing a beer can wreath off of a bar, just so Sam gets some sort of Christmas decoration, which kind of does explain why Sam's not quite so into it later on. But Dean's trying as much as, 10-year-old Dean can. I loved when they think that the drunk Santa Claus might be the killer, and they break into his crummy trailer and try to carol, and nobody knows the right Silent Night.
And yet he's entranced, and he's happy as the drunk Santa is like, oh, this is really great.
And Sam's dragging Dean out because they don't know the words. And then when Dean sets Sam up when they first visit the Christmas village about liking to watch, and the girl's, ew, Sam's like blowing through this to me. So, that was just such a perfect brother moment. And then the real world, the real world effect when Jared spiked the eggnog with real rum, and a lot of it. And so that spit take that Dean does is not acting. It's not supposed to be real alcohol. And I guess Jared dosed it up real well. And so that is Jensen trying not to just completely lose his voice because this thing is like half rum. And then the glee on Jared/Sam's face, and he goes, did I make it strong enough? And you can see Jensen still yeah, it's good. So once you know that, you can't see that scene any other way than just watching him do that spit take. And I love that. And then of course it gets terribly poignant and we all cry. And the skin mags and the fishing bobbers and the air fresheners hanging off the tree that, you know, Sam probably went out and clipped in the forest with his knife because it's right up there with Charlie Brown, but it's our boys and they're doing the best they can. So fast forward, you know, all the way to season 15, and we get you know, the last holiday in the bunker. Boys are not kids. What stuck out to you about that episode, Janet?
I think that it was totally different settings. They've grown so much, but it feels the same as a supernatural Christmas, because there is all of this heartbreak, you know, we're trying to put on a good face. We're trying to have, you know, our kind of a good day. And you know that disaster is just looming right outside the door. So they really did a great job with continuity there, I think.
Okay, Melissa?
I knew you were going to pick me next. This is the one with Mrs. Butters, right? I'm thinking of the right episode. Okay, so the first thing that struck me with this episode, Dean in the purple night robe. And I know that that's not Christmas, but come on, Dean in that purple nightshirt, Flash and Sam is just, I mean, come on, you can't talk about this episode without that. At least I can't. The other thing that I loved about this episode is you see all three of the boys sort of being nurtured and really and just enjoying it, savoring it. They've never had someone who just doted on them. And I get that it was like, you know, when you find out why, like the backstory behind Mrs. Butters, it's really sad. But when we're seeing them celebrating the holidays, she's just doting on them. And she's just trying to do these motherly kinds of things that these guys have never had. Lord knows their own mother never tried to make up for any of that when she came back. So it was kind of cool to see them actually getting in and celebrating the holidays. But the best part was after she's gone, Dean bakes the birthday cake for Jack. And it's like, okay, we've got this bunker now and we've kind of gotten a taste for how we can celebrate. So here's your cake, Jack. And it's pathetic and sad looking, but it is, I think, the best birthday cake I've ever seen because Dean tried and he tried to make something for Jack. So I loved this episode.
Okay. And with the nightshirt, I always think of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas because it's always, you know, me in my nightshirt and cap. And so it might not have been purple, but that's where my mind goes every time.
Oh, and there were plenty of Christmas balls around, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that flash.
And they were jingling.
And double take, yes. Lola, how about you?
Oh, ditto to everything. I noticed something. Okay, so it hasn't even been that long since this episode aired, maybe like a year and a half or something. But in my mind, I had gotten Mrs. Butters mixed up with the witch who was supposed to be like Hansel and Gretel witch a few years before. And so in my mind, I thought it was her. And so when I rewatched this episode tonight, I was like, I've been picturing the wrong person this whole time. So that took me a moment to get used to. And then I was like, I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was too good to be true. And you see the looks like Dean when he gets a grilled cheese sandwich and he realized she's bat crazy. And he's like looking with longing at the grilled cheese because he knows it's not appropriate to eat it now. He needs to save his brother and Jack. And he's like, damn it. You know, and it's so funny, but I feel so bad for them because I'm like, they finally got such a sweet setup. They got a mommy who's taking care of them, but like with so many things, it's too good to be true. Wah, wah, wah.
Yep. Carole?
Well, definitely, it has all of that humor. They both have such humor, and so Last Holiday has all that humor, like A Supernatural Christmas did, where, you know, here are the boys running out, and she's got their little brown bag of lunches for them, and you know, and she's scolding their language and their laundry, and it's just adorable. And they do. I mean, there's that initial what's happening, but then they eat it up with a spoon. I mean, like everyone said, they've never had anything like this. They've never had anyone outside of the two of them actually taking care of them, and taking care of them in ways that would never even occur to them. You know, they don't think about things like carving pumpkins at Halloween and, you know, apple cranberry sauce at Christmas, at Thanksgiving and stuff. So they really, they relish it just so unabashedly appreciative, which is really lovely to see. But the other parallel for me is the dark underbelly, because the dark underbelly is, she's tremendously powerful, you know, and while the power works for them, it's great. But when she decides that Jack is a threat, she doesn't have any problem tossing them into the, you know, into a locked dungeon room. And kudos to Dean for the ingenious way of blasting out of them, you know, using Jack as the battering ram. But, you know, it's, once again, you can have all of this light and this humor and comfort, but there's a dark underbelly anywhere you look. You know, anything is going to have that that darkness that has to somehow be addressed. And in this case, she was a victim of the darkness as much as that, because she had been manipulated and tortured and everything. So she was ultimately a victim, as they were, you know, as opposed to the pagan gods who were not victims. But once again, yeah, so there's still that poignancy, and that, you know, it looks great from the outside, but it's not always all what it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, she had some major Stockholm syndrome going on, thanks to Cuthbert St. Clair again. Guy shows up like a bad penny. And, but, you know, there were just some favorite moments there. Like the first time Dean walks in and sees all the Christmas stuff set up, and just, Jensen is the master of micro expressions, what that man can do with his face and his expressions, and just a little twitch here and there is amazing. And he just lights up like a little kid to see all the lights in the bunker. And that was wonderful to see. I loved the whole handing off the bagged lunches to them as they run past. That was just such a nice touch. Watch out for the milkshakes. Can't trust the milkshakes. But I was waiting for, you know, when we knew the showdown with Chuck was coming, I was wondering if it was going to be an ensemble cast, and you'd have Jack, and maybe we'd get Jesse back, and we'd get some other high-powered creatures. And I was waiting for Mrs. Butters to have like the Dobby role, you know, you shall not harm Harry Potter, and you know, blast Chuck. I would have loved to have seen Mrs. Butters takes out God, but sadly we didn't get that version. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen her make a repeat and come back for something. So that was, I thought they did a lot of great stuff with that. Now, Lola, you brought up the parallel. Oh, I'm sorry, Carole, you were going to say something?
I just wanted to comment that the actress was so perfect in that role. She was just so lovely. And even when she's doing the wrong thing, she thinks she's doing the right thing, but her demeanor and her expressions and her very quiet way of speaking all the time, and she was just so cute.
She was brilliant.
Just adorable.
Now, Lola, you brought up parallels. Want to start us off on that one?
Well, I'll give you two. There are a ton. In fact, they could, except for Jack, they could almost be the same episode. You've got, and I still cringe thinking about it, Sam losing a fingernail in both of them. And apparently Dean watched Mary Poppins at one point, because in a very supernatural Christmas, Sam says something like, Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins, and Dean goes, who? What? But then in the last holiday, he says, some evil Mary Poppins. So at some point he watched it and he gets it. So those are two, but there are more.
Anybody else spot some of those? Because I'm fascinated. I did not pick up on that.
I totally picked up on the fingernails because I did watch them pretty much back to back, and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't watch it the first time. I couldn't watch it that time either. It was like, oh, it was horrible. Horrible.
I have found out that meadowsweet is not commonly sold for wreaths. I even tried Michael's and it just isn't out there. Maybe they know something. Anybody else on parallels?
For me,
I'll-
it was, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, if nobody else, I was just thinking, you have these supposedly super saccharine sweet people who just want the best for you. And, oh dear, oh darling. And then you realize they're actually evil, which is something Supernatural loves to do. So it's that whole current of 1950s Americana and what's really underneath it. So that's the big thing.
And really, Mrs. Butters is kind of that 1950s era, just like the Ozzie and Harriet look for the pagan gods. So yeah, they were rocking that. I don't know that I think Mrs. Butters is actually evil as much as her programming did not align with the boys, and she'd been manipulated. But yeah, I see what you mean.
Murderous. How about that? Murderous.
Murderous. There you go.
We'll say it that way. Not evil, just murderous.
Just murderous.
Yeah.
Janet and Melissa, any other thoughts on parallels there?
For me, it
I
felt
got
more
nothing
like
on that one.
a progression, because Supernatural Christmas, here's Dean trying to take care of Sam, little kid Sam. And now here is Sam trying to take care of Jack. He is willing to give him a little more leeway after what happened to Mary, no matter what. And Dean is still kind of holding off. And the fact that, like you said, you have these like perfect suburban people in the first one who are evil, and you have this perfect, idealized suburban mom figure in the last one, and something's going to go sideways. You just know it is. It's too perfect. And instead of her just coming across though as pure evil and needing to be destroyed, they can sympathize with her, and she can go out in the world. They're not going to kill her. She can go on and have a life. So that was very different.
You mentioned Sam being willing to give Jack a little bit of slack. There is an adorable piece of artwork by Cami Diox where it's got Sam, Dean, and Jack, and Dean is wearing a t-shirt that says, I make the rules. Sam is wearing a t-shirt that says, I'm the reason for the rules. And Jack is wearing a t-shirt that says, the rules don't apply to me. Which, if anybody's, been the third child or had a younger brother, you know how that works. So one of the things that stuck out to me with Last Holiday is we know from canon why Sam hates Halloween. Not just that their whole lives are Halloween, but that he went to a party, threw up on someone. That didn't go well. We know that he went to a normal Thanksgiving because we saw it happen in Dark Side of the Moon that then Dean never quite forgave him for. And so that kind of ruined Thanksgiving. And Sam's birthday is just plain cursed. He died on it. Dean went to hell on it. He, over and over again, bad things happened to Sam on his birthday. But with all of the holidays that Mrs. Butters gave them, nothing bad happened. They got to carve pumpkins and have pie, and nobody threw up, and they had a Thanksgiving, and it was a family dinner, and Sam got a birthday, and he didn't die, and nobody else died. And so
And he wore a sparkly tiara.
He did, and he rocked it because he's Jared. And I thought that it was really kind of wonderful and healing that they got at least one good memory of those holidays, because so many bad things happened along the way, which leads me to my other question, which is, what about all those other holidays that we didn't get episodes for? What's your headcanon on, did they just ignore them, pretend they weren't there? Did they, I think Sam says something about getting KFC for Thanksgiving. What do you think happened? Let's see, Melissa?
I'll start with the space between 1519 and 1520, because we know that there's space. So Mrs. Butters gave them the gift of showing them that the holidays didn't have to be bad things. But you also notice that those holidays weren't actually celebrated on Thanksgiving and Christmas. I didn't get this sense, and we've talked about this in some other chats about how that wasn't really a year, that was much shorter period of time. We know from the rest of the flow of the season that was not a long, protracted thing with her. So she taught them that holidays could be celebrated whenever. So I think with Dean with the cake for Jack, here's your birthday cake, even though it probably wasn't Jack's birthday, that sort of set them up into the pattern of they could celebrate whatever they wanted, whenever they had the space to do it. So to me, that set them up for, in the space between 1519 and 1520, to try and do more celebrating when they had the chance, rather than it's December 25th and, they're covered in ghoul slime. You don't have to celebrate Christmas then. You can celebrate and you can make your own traditions. So that's one of my headcanons.
Okay, Lola?
4th of July. They go on top of the bunker on the, the actual land on top of the bunker, and they set off all these like crazy fireworks, and they set the trees on fire. And then Castiel has to come and save them and put the fire out. And then of course, maybe the fire people come and it's like, there's not even an address here, and there's some confusion there. But yeah, they go all out and they kind of mess things up, but they have fun.
Okay, Carole?
This is an area where fanfic has delved deeply. There are so many stories where sometimes they're in a motel in between hunts because there's not a lot happening monster wise, and and they've got Boston Market or KFC and some beer and some whiskey, and that totally makes sense. And but there are also really great stories where one or the other will really try to make it a real Christmas, like here's a tree, and here are actual gifts and the thought and work that they put into this, because they're not used to doing it, so it's really a lot of work for them, and how they do it and stuff, and the love that goes into them doing it. And those are really lovely moments that you can read about. I just kind of picture it really depended on what was happening and where they were. If they were they just finished a bunch of hunts and they're exhausted, and they find maybe they find a slightly better motel, like maybe instead of the no-tell motel, maybe they go to Red Roof Inn or something, a little one level up and have a little bit nicer room, and get their takeout and watch Die Hard while they're drinking and having their fried chicken and stuff. That just makes so much sense to me for the years until the bunker. They were really, everything so much is such a struggle for them that I see them taking the moments they can here and there, but it's still going to be in a very kind of impoverished way, almost. It's not for them because that's all they know, but for us to look at, we would be like, oh, that's, but to them, they just do what they can, and that's what it is. And if it means, hey, you know what, I got the extra spicy this time because we want to really live it up, then it's wonderful to see them do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Dean gets pay porn. What do you call that? The stuff you have to pay for. He gets that. That's his
Casa
special.
erotica.
Exactly. That's his treat for himself.
Pay-per-view porn. Mhm.
That would fit in. I with Carole though, I think that they try to celebrate, and I think it kind of switches between, because they're always trying to take care of the other one. They're always trying to make the other one feel better. So I think whoever is the worst beat up, whoever has just come back from being, stuck inside an archangel in a pit, or, back from hell, or gotten their soul back, that is the one that is getting is the object of getting the care, when you're doing your hurt comfort thing. That is why I've always seen it. And of course, their traditions, they have nothing other than, like TV to base it on. So it's always going to be kind of off center, kind of weird, their thing. Maybe they do get pay-per-view porn for your birthday. Happy birthday.
And magic fingers.
Yes, those are important. Yes.
Maybe the actual human magic fingers.
Well, he did what Dean says he does. He did try to take Sam to a strip club for his birthday, and Sam tried to talk the stripper into going back.
I remember
Yep.
that was hilarious. That's very Sam.
And very Dean.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, in my head canon, I can just imagine when they were younger, maybe Dean giving Sam a ding dong or a ho ho with a candle in it and going happy birthday, and Sam doing the same thing. I can see Sam sweet talking a waitress into putting a candle into a piece of pie at a diner. Because the Biggersons kinds of places, if you tell them it's your birthday, they'll come out and sing happy birthday to you. They'll put a candle in something, that's just kind of goes with that type of restaurant. So I can see that happening, even if the present piece wasn't so much of a thing. But I agree, Dean would probably be happy with the pay-per-view and the magic fingers. And, there are a lot of times in fanfic where Dean will pick up a book for him or take him to a bookstore and buy him books, or take him to a library sale and get him a bunch of books, which I could definitely see happening. Or just going out for a drive in the Impala and having a picnic, or sitting on the hood of the Impala and celebrating. You don't need much to have a meaningful holiday, and it doesn't, as we've said, have to be on the day. But I can imagine them marking those kinds of things once they got to the point where they felt like they deserved them, and where they realized that they were a family, even if it was just the two of them. Personally, I can't imagine being friends with the Archangel Gabriel and not asking for some stories like, okay, what was the stable really like, and when did the wise men show up? Because Gabriel, hello, you had one job, and it was Hark the Herald. I want stories here. These historical figures. You've got Chuck. He's not trying to kill you. Hey, Chuck. How was Mary in the sack? We want to know these things. And did Joseph really mind? Inquiring minds want to know. Come on, everybody thought that in catechism or Sunday school once or twice. But here you've got source material. You could ask these things. I can't believe they didn't ask them. I think I broke Melissa.
Yeah, Sam's going to want some historical facts and be fascinated by it. Yeah, and Dee's going to be wanting to know how everyone was in the sacks. That is very realistic.
Can't you see Sam sitting down with Rowena and talking about all those pagan customs? And okay, so tell me about the Yule log. And did you ever meet Krampus? Was he really real? I would have loved to have seen them run into a Krampus or a Perkta, one of those really awful bad Santas. That would have been fun. But they have so many people with those kinds of perspectives. I just can't imagine they didn't have conversations, Put some whiskey on the table and let's talk real history.
That would have been cool.
Melissa's still laughing.
Well, because now I want to do an autograph session with Richard and ask him that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Well, Carole mentioned fanfic. I have a story that I've posted a couple of years running in the Supernatural TFWNC group. And this year it's going to be appearing on the Winchester Family Business blog with the diorama art of Catherine Carole. And it's another Auld Lang Syne. And it's a quiet night in the bunker just before the mid-season finale of season 14. And so that's just kind of another one of my headcanons on spending a quiet night together, happy that nobody's dead. And, there are plenty of Scooby-Doo Christmas specials. They could have watched all those Scooby-Doo Christmas specials.
Dean decorated his man cave, maybe. He puts up some Christmas lights in the man cave, hangs a couple of socks for stockings.
And Sam gets him an elaborate beer can wreath this time, that isn't stolen.
He found it on Etsy.
Yeah.
Turns out he sells them on Etsy.
With as much beer as Dean drinks?
He could. Might as well
He
get some
could.
money back from it. Mhm.
Yeah, I can see that. Decorate the man cave. Big non-haunted TV.
Yeah, because Mrs. Butters fixed the TV.
Mhm.
Hopefully that didn't go away when she left. Hopefully it's still fixed.
It would also be great to find out if there were, Sam stumbles upon one of those many, many storage rooms in the bunker and finds all of these men of letters Christmas ornaments, some of which turn out to be, cursed, haunted, or just souped up.
And I gotta say, I think all of the men of letters Christmas decorations would be like dull gray, because they're kind of stuffy and they're not really into color.
Well, I don't know. Dean found that whole box of like vintage porn.
Yeah.
So
And
bunch of
Mrs.
guys
Butters.
there's gotta be
Mrs. Butters had the tree decorated with a train underneath and
That's
everything.
true.
I don't think she magicked that up. I think that was probably
Okay,
in the
that was
bunker.
already there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
I
totally
bet she
like the
got it.
idea
in the
that-
first
At least that
place,
was my
yeah.
headcanon. That was already
Yeah.
there that she just.
They were constantly finding new rooms and boxes of
That's
stuff. So I totally can buy that. Oh, look, we opened this room and here's all this stuff.
Remember the garage with all the cars?
Right.
We
So
don't
then
see that
you decorate
anymore.
The
Yeah.
man cave and stuff. Yeah, I like the idea of magic ornaments. Like maybe you look in the ornament and you'll see little scenes of things, little clips from the future. or
It could be like when Mrs. Butters pointed out the interdimensional telescope, and then Sam said, "Oh, I looked through it. There wasn't anything there." And she said, "Oh, that's not a good sign," because we knew that God was destroying worlds at that point. So it'd be funny if all the Christmas ornaments were little windows into other worlds and they were all black.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're not supposed to be black, and they're like shaking them and they can't figure out, but we figure out because the worlds are disappearing. We know why they're black.
You're very dark tonight, Lola.
Very cheery. So cheery, Lola.
Or snow globes with things trapped, so
you
you
feel
can
peaceful.
give them a shake.
Trying to get
So
up.
creepy.
Yeah.
That's what happened to our AU Sam and Dean, our rich Chesters.
They're in the
They're
snow
trapped in
globe.
snow
Chester's
globes.
all-
No, they're down at Carnival.
They're in Rio.
Okay, that's
Okay.
what happened with the alternate universe John then.
Okay.
Oh, he's in the snow globe.
He's in a
Okay.
snow globe somewhere.
He's in a hell of some kind.
Yeah,
Snow
I can just
globes.
imagine creatures trapped in the snow globes, and yeah, that just seems like a perfect kind of thing for the men of letters to have. Oh, look, we have decoration. Oh, wait, things are trying to get out of them.
And
That
they
would be
drop an ornament and something, the gin or whatever,
And it
was
just
trapped,
comes up.
out.
And one of them has a little reindeer with a red nose. And Sam and Dean are like, "It's Rudolph." And she says, "He was a monster." With that look of hers.
Yeah, Rudolph was a hellhound.
Yeah, exactly. You just didn't know it until midnight Christmas. He went out jowly and stuff.
Where reindeer?
Yeah. Where, dear?
Where reindeer? Oh, stop giving me plot bunnies. Enough.
Oh,
No,
wasn't
I
a-
want an ornament that sends them into like some really over the top Bing Crosby White Christmas song and dance
What if it was
alternate universe.
And
What if it
that's
was
the
a
whole
magic ornament?
episode.
What if it was a magic ornament and it sent them into, oh gosh, now I can't think of it. Who makes Rudolph and those,
Rankin Bass.
sends them into a Rankin Bass show?
Oh, and they could be stop motion.
Yes.
I love
Oh,
you.
that would be
Oh,
awesome.
Can you
and
write
all the
that?
styrofoam snow,
Yeah.
snow, dude.
Remind me, Melissa.
You know I'm gonna message you as soon as we're done.
That's a
Get to
great
meet Heat
idea.
Miser and Snow Miser and the Winter Wizard.
They would
And Gail.
fit. They would fit perfectly on like the island of misfit toys.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Jared is Bumble.
And Sam
And
is still, Sam is thrown against the wall, but he breaks because he's a stop motion putty
And-
thing.
And the elf who wanted to be a dentist is Garth.
That's perfect because he becomes a dentist. That's so perfect. And then he's mad because he sees little Rudolph in the ornament. And he's like, he's not a monster. He's just a were-reindeer. Okay.
Well, and the lion on the island of misfit toys is, of course, a were-lion.
Yeah. That's perfect.
We
The
can
abominable snowman is just under a curse.
the Bumble, yeah.
The
Well,
bumble,
maybe
but
pull
he's
out all
under
his
a
teeth.
curse.
There we are with teeth again. You know, pull out all the Bumble's teeth, and maybe Yukon Cornelius is really Bobby.
Yes.
Hey, you Bobby.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's writing.
Carol, please write this.
Send it to me. Write it down and send it to me.
And honestly, Rudolph's dad had some A+ parenting going on there too. So
Yeah.
This is
Seriously,
beautiful. This is just
John
beautiful.
Winchester.
yeah, I just see, I can see this happening. Yeah.
It's just, oh, I love it.
I would love to see the boys, they were going to go get the sand between the toes and those years between 19 and 20. I would love to see, Sam talks Dean into going up to like Vermont for a real Christmas with lots of snow.
And they end up
Huh? And they end up at this bed and breakfast that is like way nicer than what they usually stop at. But it's got breakfast included, which is how Sam talks Dean into going there because, hey, dude, waffles
Bacon.
and bacon and waffles, and it's free. And then, of course, there's still some sort of case that they have to go chase down.
the breakfast, you have to hunt it yourself. And it's like a escape room type thing. And you get trapped in there. And so, yeah. So it's some kind of thing like that.
Lola is just tormenting them.
I know. I'm
Oh
like,
my
because
gosh,
it
I love
always
you.
is the worst case scenario with them. It always got to be totally effed up, whatever happens. So
Yeah.
it turns out it's not a bed and breakfast. It's one of those weird hunting lodges, like, from
Where
a
it's
Jordan Peele movie, huh?
Well, where it's really shifters that have been trapped in their animal shape and taxidermied by a necromancer.
That's so sick.
I did that in one of my books.
And then
Man, that's so sick.
Sam
Oh my
and Dean
God.
visit Fox Hollow.
But no, you can't shoot these. These are good shifters. Except, yeah, I can see Sam just eyeing that moose over the mantle, going, "Dude, are we related?"
Oh, they need to spend a Christmas in Stars Hollow.
Aw.
And everyone would go up to Sam and go, "Wow, you look just like this guy who grew up here."
Oh my God. And you can see Rory get really uncomfortable. Like, dude,
Yeah.
like I'm totally with, what's his name? I don't remember the other guy's name. I'm like totally with him. Oh, whatever. And Dean could be like, I don't know you, whatever.
And then Lorelai decides that now Sam's old enough. So
For her. Yeah. Sam, okay. Lorelai's like, wow, it's been like 20 years. I think we can do it now. I know we had all that.
Well,
sexual
Sam, it won't be 20 years for Sam because he's never met Lorelai before.
That's true. That's true.
So everyone's just going to be like, "Wow, you look just like that guy who used to work at the grocery and then he moved
Dean?
away." And,
Wasn't his name Dean? And Sam's like, No.
And then everyone will call Sam Dean, and Dean will keep going, what?
And Dean's like really confused, and they're like, "Who are you? Go back to Young and the Restless."
Yeah, he's just going to hang out at Luke's and have some coffee and bacon. That's his
you
entire
go.
visit.
And
Or
he'll
Rocky's
probably
Hall.
love that.
He and Luke would get along so well. They'd be like, "Ah."
He would, except for Sam would say, "What's the Wi-Fi password?" And
Oh.
Luke would
Luke
have
would
a
be like,
fit.
there's no Wi-Fi
There's
here.
no Wi-Fi here. You sit and talk to people. So that
See, I
would
would-
be the
I want to see Sam and Dean show up at the side step, you know, with all the Christmas lights and everything. They would take care of the Davidsons very, very quickly, which was a segue into Walker. If you haven't watched the show,
Okay.
you
I
know,
stopped watching it. I watched almost the first year, but I don't know. I just kind of got, I don't know.
but I think that would liven things up. Maybe they could buy it out and make it Rocky's Bar and live that fantasy for real. Christmas at Rocky's.
Stella would get a crush on Dean, but he'd be like, jailbait, get away from me.
Yeah, I hope so. Otherwise, not fit for CW.
Oh,
And we're back to Casa Erotica.
and we're back to Casa Erotica. Yeah, the Casa Erotica Christmas special.
I'm very proud that we've had porn in both recordings tonight. One way or the other.
And Gilmore Girls. Porn. Gilmore
This
Girls.
has been a really experimental panel. I really
It
like
I
has-
like it.
We were talking food porn in the last panel because it was all about cookies and dessert,
Okay,
and so we were talking about food porn. So now we're just talking about porn.
porn.
So believe it or not, we have gone through our time, amazingly enough.
Okay.
So
Oh dear.
let's go around, let everybody know where they can find you online, starting with you, Lola.
My name's Lola Larsey. If you Google me, you'll find me and a bunch of dead ladies, and I'm related to all of them, and they're all in Georgia. There's some inbreeding going on, but anyways, I'm a writer, and that's the truth. God's honest truth. I stopped asking. I asked my mother once about my lineage. All right, I'll tell you the story. I said, Mama, what's my grandmother's maiden name? And she said, Larsey. And I said, well, what was her mother's maiden name? And my mother looked down. And I said, what? And she looked at me and she said, they were cousins. It was acceptable back then. I never asked another word about that side of the family ever again. But if you look up Larsey in Georgia, they're all over the place. So anyways,
There you have it.
that's me.
Melissa.
Maybe
when,
we should come back to Melissa.
Yeah.
when I'm not laughing hysterically because of something that somebody said on a panel, I'm stalking writers on AO3 or on Twitter, Bia_Deans_girl for both AO3 and Twitter, or I'm in the TFWNC Supernatural Facebook group, just being snarky.
There we go. Janet.
I'm Janet Walden-West. You can find me under that name everywhere at my website. And my books are just as tacky as this episode has been.
Carole, how about you?
I'm Carole Stokes here on Facebook, and I'm in the TFWNC group and on continual panels. My Twitter is true_firesign10. My fanfic, including the porn, is on AO3 under firesign10. And that's all she wrote. Mind the tags.
I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com, all the social media, some variation of those names. I do run the Supernatural TFWNC group on Facebook. I'm a staff columnist for the Winchester Family Business, but most of the time you can find me here on Continual. So thank you all very much for a wonderful holiday panel. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There'll be more Supernatural coming up, so we'll see you online.